What's up, and welcome to episode 3 of the Storming the Nexus podcast. I am Jeremy Quick, aka Squishei, and this week we take a look at the 4 maps that were playable at BlizzCon and speculation on what possible team comps will emerge from the game. But first, back from the dead, with his green background and orange, disgustingly orange shirt, Sophist, aka
Brown.
Kyle.
Hi, this is brown. This is like shit brown. It's awesome. It's my favorite color.
Good to
I
know.
believed it was brown.
And you know him from last week, Mike, aka Thilladren, with hands blocking the amazing t-shirt
That I totally planned to wear today.
Did you buy it
Yes.
at BlizzCon or was it shipped?
Yes, BlizzCon.
Looks good. So how are you guys today? Ready for more Heroes talk?
Oh yeah, yep. Me and my broken camera.
The one thing I
Oh
forgot to do.
yes, so good.
I apologize.
Oh,
Let's
the
see, what was
goats.
Who just
What was
The
that?
goat is super excited for Heroes of the Storm. You just don't know.
It was worth it. It was Newegg telling me that my order shipped.
Well, that's good. Is
Well
it a
then.
mic stand?
No. No,
So-
the computer.
So first up this week, as I said, we're going to take an in-depth look into the maps shown at BlizzCon. Now, we don't have footage because the game's still in alpha, but we do have beautiful simulated diagrams by Torstein, made in Photoshop. So first up is Blackheart's Bay. So, Sophist, what can you tell us about this map?
The main focus of this map will definitely be happening at that pink sailboat in the middle there. That is where you turn coins in that are... we went over this a little bit before. You gather coins from mobs around the map. Turn, I believe it's 10 in. And Blackheart himself will then fire barrages at targets on the map, taking out the towns quicker, much quicker than you would normally be able to. So the focus here is turning those coins into that little pink sailboat in the middle there. This is the kind of map where the most of the combat not happening in lanes will happen right there in the middle. So it's going to be kind of a fight for supremacy of the middle of the map.
All right. So, looking at the map, there's also the mercenary camps, which we've talked about before. And what you'll notice on this map is that there are 8 of them, 4 of which are regular mercenary camps, and the other 4 are actually camps that just drop coins, which you can give to Blackheart. Also, we have the big mercenary camp at the very top, which marked by this beautiful yellow skull and crossbones,
Yes.
the Grave Golem. Now, this Grave Golem, like any game, Roshan in Dota and Baron Nashor in League, it's probably going to be a major point of contention.
Yes.
How do you think this is going to affect games? I mean, do you think you're going to go for it right away, or is like the ship going to be more important than the Grave Golem?
I think the ship is more important than the Grave Golem just because of the massive damage it does. And the inability to stop it once it starts.
Right. What?
I agree with the ship being the major point of contention. Like I said, most of the fighting is going to be there. However, allowing someone to sneak in there and take that Grave Golem will also be a big mistake. As we saw during one of the developer matches, a team that was ahead actually ended up throwing the game because they decided to kind of take too much, not just defend the other team and keep their lead. They went for the ship, kept knocking people down, knocking their towers down, and then they said, "All right, now that we've won a team fight, we're gonna go in and grab the Grave Golem as well." And the other team was able to go in there, wipe out the team, and really get back into the match. So it's still a very, like you had mentioned before, a very important part of this map.
Okay.
Not to be overlooked by that pretty pink sailboat.
When do you think would be a good time to go for the Grave Golem in this game, or on Blackheart's Bay in general?
I think ideally, like best case scenario, the death timers are kind of starting to add up. You win a team fight, you maybe ace the other team around the ship. At that point, you may leave one person behind to deposit some coins, and the rest of everyone else beeline it right for the Grave Golem, and try and get the most out of that conflict.
Yeah, that's the only viable time I could think of, because if the other enemy team is up and you're going for the Grave Golem, if they even get a hint of what you're doing, hey, guess what, guys? The enemy team is, grouped up in a small location.
Right.
Let's go kill them.
I mean, there's one entrance here, being this section right here, which is actually covered in brush. So unless you have someone standing in that section there, you're not going to see them coming either. And with only one way in, one way out, that's a song.
You're kind of boned.
Yeah, you might be screwed. And
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but something you had mentioned before, another way to kind of handle this is intentionally lure the other team there. You can get some players hanging out in that brush. Don't attack that Grave Golem. Make it look like, hey, we're going to try and sneak this Grave Golem. The second they enter that brush, you're ready for a fight. You haven't actually started anything, because they don't have vision of the Grave Golem. So another strategy there might be like, hey, we're going to go for this. The problem is you got to make sure when you're doing that your team, the opposing team, won't be able to in turn just say, fine, you can have them. We're going to go turn coins in. That would be a bad no.
They call your bluff pretty much. I mean,
Exactly.
the other thing with that tiny little area is that most notably, Raynor's ship, the one that you call in the giant barrage, right on that entire area, pretty much takes up the entire space. Meaning it will be dealing massive damage to all of you unless you escape from there, but then you're blocked by the people coming in. So that is always going to be a major point of contention, in my opinion. And you always have to worry about it. Because I don't think the watchtower doesn't reach there, I don't think, does it? I mean, this watchtower in the center right here.
That watchtower, I remember it because I covered it. It covers just up to the brush line at the top there.
So it would be something like that?
More or less.
Similar, yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't see into the brush, does it?
No.
No.
Nope.
Do you think it should see into that brush?
No.
No, I don't think so, because the brush is like, it's kind of like the brush in League right now. You're covered in it unless you get vision into the brush.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that should provide vision into the brush. I mean, maybe of the brush, but cuts off just at the other side, so you can't see anybody exiting the other side.
Okay.
This way, you have a chance to hide in that brush and do those surprise tactics that you stated.
Okay.
But then again, it would make a good counter. Go get the watchtower, and guess what? Now you can see the other side of the brush and people going in and out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I don't know.
Next up then, what kind of heroes do you think would be good on this map? Like, name a hero that you think would be super, super good on this map. And why?
Anything with quick movement. Falstad's flying would be great. I play Tyrael on this map, and his sword throw is just the perfect range to get over the gaps over the water between your base and certain parts of the map. So anybody with any kind of movement ability to, bypass parts of the map that are blocked off. Global ultimates, things like that.
Okay. So like ETC's global ult.
Yeah, that was going to be one that I really focused on. I think, like you said, mobility is key here. You don't want to be able to just give up control of Blackheart's ship there. You want a global, like ETC global, I think is really good here. I mean, he can fight a small skirmish around Blackheart. If he's still up and someone's going for the Grave Golem, he can then ultimate up, stun them on his way down, and engage again, and it just bounce back and forth between lanes in a larger map, which is really impressive for a champion.
The other thing I think is that since there's 3 lanes, you're gonna want to have one person in each lane every time, at all times. That way you're soaking XP from each lane, and therefore your team levels up faster. And with a global ultimate, which the top lane is quite far from the actual ship, if a fight breaks out, you can have that extra luxury of someone gaining XP from your team while you're dancing at the ship. And I think that's super important to get ahead of your opponent. And that's one of the only things you can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be handy. Because like you said, the top lane's far, and the top lane's on the other side of the boat from Blackheart, so you have to go down and around to get to him.
Right. I mean,
yeah, I mean, not just that. The mercenary camps are a pretty high priority here. So being able to get around the map is important. You're not necessarily going to be a jungler per se, but you may have your lanes meet you in the jungle to take out these camps. So you have someone that can wander much easier. That's good.
I think the other thing that I just thought of was Falstad Wildhammer on his mount, on his griffin thing. You can just fly over the water and just meet up there. That'd be also really effective, in my opinion. All right, let's move on then. So the next map, this one isn't as well known, and I don't think many people had the chance to play this one. This one being the Cursed Hollow. So Thil, can you tell us a little bit about what this map then?
A lot less than the other maps, because this is the one map I didn't get my hands on. And like you just said, I don't think a lot of people got their hands on this map for whatever reason. But as far as I know, 3 lanes, as you can see there, just standard layout, top, middle, bottom, all nicely evenly spaced. 4 mercenary camps. I have no idea what the 2 skulls on this map are.
They are grave golems again. But from what I could tell, this one, this is speculation a little, but from what I could tell, the grave golem spawns alternate between the 2. Meaning it'll spawn on one of them first, and then alternate back and forth.
Well, that makes sense. Because I heard this map, the point is there's tributes, and then when you take control of the tributes, you get a buff or debuff to the enemy team from the Raven Lord, who demands tribute.
Right.
But the part I read was that the tributes spawn in random locations when they do spawn. So that would add to the random element of the map, having the grave golem spawn in either of the places.
Right.
You can have more places for the grave golem to spawn. Why not?
As far as I know, those are the only 2, and they just alternate them. So maybe if there's a specific timer which they're on, like maybe every 3 minutes, you could invade into the enemy's jungle and try to steal their grave golem. Whereas yours is a lot safer on your side of the map, stuff like that. But I think the super important thing to remember is that the tribute or the curse that the Raven Lord puts on the enemy team, it's huge. It's a 10 or 15 second power play. The enemy's minions don't even do damage. The enemy's towers don't even fire. It's free raid.
Ouch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I put less emphasis on the location of the grave golems. Looking at that map, it kind of looks like the difference between Dragon and Baron in League of Legends. So may it be a slight edge in some respects, depending on where it spawns. More importantly would be those tributes that spawn. If one spawns deep in your enemy's territory, you got to be ready to say, all right, we need to take a couple people to contest it. I think there's 3 tributes that spawn, and I think they spawn at the same time.
As far as I know, it's 1 at a time, and it's first to 3 to get the curse.
1 at a time, first to 3. Okay, so it's interesting. I don't know how that's gonna work. Just because one spawns deep in your opponent's territory, you then go, okay, we're letting that one go. It's too early to be going in there and contesting right now. We don't have the team for it. We'll take the next one.
Right.
It would be really unfortunate if 3 of them in a row spawn away from you, and at that point you're just going, we got to go in. This game is forcing us to be aggressive here. I think just lends to everyone always playing aggressively. on this map, you're going to build your team to be able to do things like that. Like, that's what you're going to want to do. If you know you're going to play on this map, you got to know that we got to have a good early game, because you're just relying on late game. You're going to be just hoping that the tribute spawns on your side and you're able to get there without too much trouble.
Yeah. What kind of champion would you look at for this map?
Just kind of like I said, anything that I would think that has a good early game. I didn't get a chance to play too many champions, so I don't have a good read on what champions are good early. But I'm gonna go with maybe like a Stitches, just based on how I know someone like Blitzcrank would work in an early League of Legends game. A Blitzcrank being the robot that can grab someone and pull them towards you. So what you might be able to do here is say, all right, there's a tribute over there. We're going to kind of hang out in the brush near that tribute. The second someone goes to the tribute, we're going to try and get a pick early. We're going to hook them, pull them to us, grab them, kill them, and then go in as a team. Hopefully being able to stop them from grabbing that tribute in time.
That sounds like a really great strategy. Thil, any champion that you're looking for on this map?
I gotta echo Sophist's. Anything with a good early game. I would go something that could play aggressive and a fighter or a warrior type, as they put it. So anything that can get in there, do damage, or prevent them from doing damage, just to zone them out.
Okay.
Anything that lends to aggressive play.
All right. So I think this map is definitely the most underplayed one. Not that interesting, though the buff is super powerful. So moving on then, the next map. I know this one is a little more popular. They detailed it at BlizzCon. It's the Dragonshire. And this one, definitely very symmetrical looking, even in this map itself. Sophist, can you tell us a little more about this?
I also don't have too much knowledge of this one. Phil actually got to play it, I believe. What I understand from this map, just looking at it, you've got the 4 mercenary camps, you've got the dragon shrine, I believe, in the middle, and a watchtower in the middle that kind of gives you vision of. I'm not sure if it gives you vision of the entire middle of the map, so I'm not sure how much that includes. At the top and the bottom, those exclamation points there, those are, I think it's the Shrine of the Moon and the Shrine of the Sun, if I am not mistaken. The idea here is to have control of both of them at the same time. So it's sort of a King of the Hill-esque map here. You have control of both of those at the same time. You're then able to go in and get control of the Dragon Shrine. You get control of the Dragon Shrine. It actually turns that champion into the Dragon Knight. And who is this just like giant unstoppable monster who can really push through lanes with the control of a person. So if you get someone that is skilled at knowing how that champion or that, I guess, champion, the knight works, that's the kind of person you're going to want to be able to roam quickly to that shrine, get access to it, and then do as much damage as possible. I also believe you don't die when he dies. When the Dragon Knight dies, I believe you spawn back at the Dragon Shrine.
Right.
You turn back into your champion where the Dragon Knight died.
Okay.
So if you're, balls deep in enemy territory, you got to get the hell out of there fast. Especially if they, ganged up on you. And while he is unstoppable, he's not unstoppable. Like a well-played enemy team can easily counter the Dragon Knight.
Okay.
Yes,
Now,
one thing that map is missing, there are 2 extra mercenary camps of pretty damn powerful siege minions. One to the north of the North Shrine and one to the south of the South Shrine.
So
they're
okay.
yeah, so dead center under the exclamation point. I'm pointing at my screen again and nobody can see that.
Yep.
So yeah, there. And it's hidden by brush so you can't see it from the shrine, and there's a wall between the shrine and the camp. But they're pretty good objective because they outrange the turrets.
Okay, so these are
and
the
all
siege
of the fort
giants.
defenses. Yeah, those are the siege ones. So the big giants. They have like a mortar or they throw boulders or something. I don't remember.
You didn't get the pun, the seed giants?
Yes.
Now I do. Anyway.
Thank you.
Break me, Squishy. You're going to break me again. But those are like an important sub-objective, I'd say. Also, the Dragon Knight, it takes some really coordinated teamwork because, one, you got to control both shrines. Correct. It takes about 4 seconds to knock it back to neutral. Because it's like it's got a control bar, and then it's got a little bit of extra control once you capture it, so the enemy team can't instantly flip it. So it takes about 3-4 seconds to make it neutral again. And when you do control both, the champion has to click on the shrine and channel for like 6 or 7 seconds to become the Dragon Knight. If he takes any damage, if the shrines are made neutral, insert unforeseeable circumstance here, then he fails the transformation. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to become the Dragon Knight.
I mean, from what we saw, the stealth attack being like an Abathur or some kind of global ult onto the Dragonshire or the Dragon platform to begin channeling immediately is one of the strategies that you would use here.
The game I played in, I'm standing there channeling, and all of a sudden I see something glowy. I'm like, oh, what's that? That's a bad effect. I got to get out of it. And by the time I got out of it, I had a gigantic raging musical bull on my head.
Good denial from that as well. So, the global ult seems to be a reoccurring theme here from ETC or other. Any other champion that would work? I mean, I said Abathur because he can instantly get to the platform if needed.
There's a lot of mazy hedges in the middle, also, I should point out. Like, it's not just a nice open area. So this is probably the most jungly jungle I've seen out of any map yet. So anything... I played Falstad, so I could just fly right over there. So there was no worries there. But anything that can circumvent the jungle.
Okay.
Overall, this game looks to have a very big importance, a very high importance of having at least one champion with a global ult, right? You have just Abathur showing up and no one able to contest within 6 seconds. He's just going to take something. At that in mind, I think maybe the more durable global ults are going to be kind of the way to go. I think someone like Abathur's not really going to be able to show up and just take something because he doesn't do well by himself. I think it's going to be more like, the bigger guys just trying to, not necessarily taking the objectives, but like bullying them off until their teams can get there. So you're going to have one of those, I think, on just about every map. That's almost a given. You're going to want to, or you're just going to be giving stuff up that you don't want to be giving up.
All right. And so we move on to the last map, probably the most astounding out of all of them shown at BlizzCon. Basically, the Haunted Mines. 2-level map, and definitely gave some good, interesting battles in the developer show match. Thil, do you want to go into a little more detail about it?
Sure. The upper portion, if I'm not mistaken, is the smallest map currently in the game. Not positive on that one, but it is definitely on the smaller side. And the key is those little housey things that you see on the map there. They're entrances to the mine. The thing, especially in the developer game, the first thing both teams did was contest for control over those mine entrances. Like almost immediately. I don't even think there were minions out yet. So that seems to be, the key point of this game. Because once they become active, I think it's 3 minutes into the game, maybe a bit longer, you can go through them, which brings you to the second layer of the map. And down there's a bunch of undead minions, creeps, things like that. And you kill them and you get your team points. There are 100 points worth down there, and that skull in the middle is, you guessed it, a grave golem.
Surprise!
Surprise! That gives you a whole bunch of points when you kill it. Once every enemy minion is killed in the mines, after a short delay, a grave golem spawns in top lane and in bottom lane, or opposite, I don't know, one for each team, and it's more powerful based on how many skulls or points you received in the mines. And then it starts an evil reign of rampaging, terror pushing, I'm just throwing adjectives in here, and it'll just start pushing the lane it spawns in.
Correct. All right. So, Sophist gonna freak out again, and so, like you said, this is gonna be a huge battle over the mines. I mean, even in the developer show match, it's going to be push, try to control it, zone out your opponents, and then there are a bunch of strategies that you can use once the Grave Golems on top have actually spawned. I mean, based off what your opponent's doing, you can either push with your Grave Golem, push against their Grave Golem, or just defend against their Grave Golem. There's pros and cons to each, and there are many different possibilities that you can do depending on what the score looks like, depending if you're even with the other team in a 50-50 split, if you have an advantage, or even if you have a disadvantage. But, you know, I don't think we can even say all the time you should defend if you're ahead, push if you're ahead, etc. I mean, what do you think? Do you think you're going to be defending against the Grave Golem more often, or pushing with yours more often?
That all depends on how your team's doing, how their team's doing, the power of the Grave Golem and its size. I could say it's going to be on a basis to basis thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think this one is going to have more to do with your mindset of what a good team is. This one, just after I finish saying that a global ult is going to be very, very important, this might be the one map where it's not necessarily important. Just because the map is so small. Something like a durable team might work well here, just because you're going to want to be able to kind of brute force your way through things, because the mine is one small little area, and you're going to want to be able to bully the other team away from the minions down there. So as long as you have a solid team composition, I think you'll be okay here. This one might be, unlike some of the other ones, just more your preference.
All right. So let's assume you're ahead. 60-40 or something. Your Grave Golem is bigger than the enemies. Would you push with yours or defend against theirs? Thill is fighting with an invisible person off the camera.
Yeah, she's throwing wet naps at me. This is the sign of what the hell was that? Sorry.
This depends on, if you ask me, this is what really depends on time of the game.
Okay.
Early on, I think I'd like to try and get personally, I think what I would like to at least attempt when I get a chance to get some hands-on experience with this is try and get a bigger Grave Golem than the opposing team, and then defend. Late game, I want to, at that point, be able to, again, it's always going to be, I'm going to want to get the bigger Grave Golem, I think, unless it's to the point where I think I can just win the game. Late game is when I'm going to really want to start pushing. I think I want the early damage just to be done by the Grave Golem. A little safer for the people on your team. Being able to just defend that, just to sit back, defend that Grave Golem attack, and then late game make your push.
This has the possibility of one of being the fastest maps. Assume it's a 50-50 split, and both teams decide to push with their Grave Golem. You'll end up in a full-on base race. And I think that could be a very, very possible strategy if your team comp is correct for it. I mean, you look at StarCraft, there's your 9 pool, your all-ins, your early all-ins. This could be your early all-in on this map. And I think that could be a very interesting strategy, though frustrating to play against if you do see it coming.
Yeah, and frustrating to play, I think, as well. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, screw it. To me, that's like we're fine. Or it might be, like you said, maybe it's just a look at that team comp. They can't push early. Let's just go all out. Like, that's our best shot. But yeah, they could defend it, and then you're screwed. You have a shitty first engage, and the other team's Grave Golem is just
pounding on your door already.
Exactly, and you can't do anything about it.
I think
that first trip into the mines will really determine what people do. At least I'm going to say in the early game. That's kind of obvious, but you know, you could be right. This could be your all-in early type map.
Yep.
7 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard Vala is very late game hyper carry style. Early game, not so great. And maybe if you see Vala and others late game scaling champs, you'll just be like, all right, I think we can win this. Let's get at least 50. And if we do that, let's push. They can't defend us.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I have totally agree there.
All right. So,
Probably a strategy we'll see often.
and then people will hopefully learn how to counter it, because if not in solo queue,
yeah.
that is going to be very, very frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next section. That's all 4 maps. Let's move on to the speculation portion. So we've been talking a little bit about heroes, and we took a look at the playable list at BlizzCon, and both Kyle and Mike have created a team comp. So before we quickly get to that, we have the 4 roles that Blizzard has set out for these heroes. We have Warrior, Assassin, Specialist, and Support. Now, Warrior is your standard tank/bruiser type. Does some damage, but mostly there to survive a beating. Assassin is your damage dealer. Specialist is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Support is your standard healing, shields, kiting, all the sorts. And Specialist is defined as the one that doesn't fit into the others. They're the outcasts.
Thing I've noticed of a couple of specialists, they're more like zone denial, area denial, or sit in the base and act through proxy and don't actually leave the base with your hero.
Yeah, they
It's a way for them to just say, all right, we're gonna make this completely. This guy is all about whatever the fuck we want him to be about.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's kind of there.
This is their outcast territory where they throw everything else. I mean, they detailed one, Sergeant Hammer, the siege tank. You could be a siege tank in this game. And he has a minimum range that he has to be at in order to fire. The old school WoW hunters, oh boy. And at max range, if you start firing at max range, he gets a critical chance. It's a bonus. I can't remember if it's like 100% crit chance, but it's definitely a bonus. And he can definitely outrange towers. So he is going to be a very interesting specialist.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is different.
The pusher specialist.
Yeah, I mean, it's old school WoW arena against hunters. Be up close so they can't do any damage. And then they try to kite away so they can deal damage.
That's going to be an interesting early game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Get in that lane! No, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be
wanna
back
in
at
there.
my tower firing. I'll be here. I promise.
No, I thought the specialists seem like they're champions that work. They augment the rest of the team, but they can work independently. As we saw at the developer match, they're Abathur, and Abathur's, in my mind, a support champion. Because pretty much most of his abilities are supporty, but he was off on his own, not even supporting his team, just doing his own thing. And I think I saw something similar of a Gazlo.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, Abathur I wouldn't put in that category. I don't think he can, but I think you send one person to deal with him, and it's tough for him to get anything
Yeah.
done. They just ignored him. That was why that was effective.
Okay.
Yeah, that too.
So, what kind of team comp? Like, how many of each role would you take on a team, or will emerge when we actually get to play this?
My first initial thought, and I think I discussed this with you a few days ago. All right, now I see a warrior, 2 assassins, a specialist, and a support.
Okay.
That's what I saw initially. I don't know how that'll change once people start getting their hands on the game and start strategizing and developing a meta, if there even is a meta. But yeah, that's, I think, what a general comp will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I also think obviously I think there's going to be multiple ways to build a team, but I think the other popular one will be 2 warriors, an assassin, a specialist, and a support.
Right.
But that just gives you the ability to build your warriors more aggressively, if you want, and one more
Right.
tanky.
As this gets out of internal testing and beta as well, I think since the community and the player base is going to be so much larger, I think we're going to see weird comps as well, like 1 warrior, 1 assassin, 3 supports, or 1 assassin, 4 supports. Something where it's just like the
Three
well
specialists.
right, like the well-known protect the Cogmaw strategy in League of Legends. It's just one super hyper carry, and everybody else is just trying to protect him, and maybe even like 5 bruisers on a super objective control map, so that you can they'll never die. They can hold the objective all day long. They won't deal damage. They won't kill the enemy, but they can hold it.
Well, I think you're right. I think these maps are really going to affect how you build your team. It is similar to some things in League where you play Summoner's Rift is completely different than playing Twisted Treeline. It just is.
Yeah.
Like you don't even worry about some classes in Twisted Treeline because it is a completely different map. And they really took that to heart and embraced that different maps mean different play styles, meaning more people may enjoy this because you may have a bunch of different play styles type thought process, I think. So
Something I'm looking forward to, actually, because as I was saying, if there even is a meta, it'll probably be a different meta for every map.
Right.
And a different ideal team comp for every map. I mean, we have no idea.
We don't have our hands on it.
Yeah, exactly. Only the internal Blizzard testers might have an inkling as to what's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. So, as I said before, both of you, before the show, created a team comp that you are going to reveal for us, and then we're going to discuss it and see who we think is going to come out on top. So, Sophist, you're up first. Who is on your team?
All right, let me bring up my stuff. Where's I going to find this stuff? All right, so my thoughts behind this were very similar to what I heard someone say some of the developers did during theirs. First of all, I went with 1 support, 2 warriors, a specialist, and an assassin.
Okay.
I went with Raynor, Nazeeba, Sonya, ETC, and Uther. My thoughts behind this were global ult, number 1, which doesn't necessarily have to be used globally. My thoughts here were 5-on-5. You show up in a team fight. You can use it's an AoE comp, basically. You use Uther to give ETC invulnerability. You ultimate in on the other team, immediately stun everyone again, jump in with Sona, stun everyone again. Raynor pops his ult in the middle of all that, and while this is happening, drops his battle cruiser on him, and Sona also has a whirlwind ability, which allows her to not only stun Sonya, whatever, which allows her to kind of AoE everything as it goes. So this is, and Nazeeba is just generically very strong at those AoE type attacks.
Right.
So that was my thought here was like very similar to something you see in League of Legends as well, where they focus heavily on CC and AoE damage. You just kill everything all at once.
All right.
Yep.
Good pitch, Phil.
Yeah.
You're up.
I went. Now, mind you, I put this together in 2 minutes, but I went my theory of 2 assassins and 1 of everything else. So, my 2 assassins, I got Raynor and Nova, and then I did Diablo, Uther, and Nazeeba. And my thinking behind this, my quick thinking behind this, so I didn't really have time to flesh it out, but you got Uther the plan is for, team fights. You got Diablo with his 1 ult that sucks everybody in and stuns them. I am right there. That's one of his ults.
I believe
Pretty sure that's
so.
one of his ults. Okay, he sucks everybody in and stuns them. Then you can either initiate with that or use that after Raynor drops the battle cruiser. And you got Nazeeba with her wall of mummies that can keep people in there. Basically, my idea was keep people in the shit boxes, I would call it, as long as possible. And while they're stuck there and the battle cruiser's raining down on them, Nova could just nuke the shit out of them. And again, what Sophist was going for, the massive AoE damage, and just keeping them in that kill box. Okay, I won't call it the shit box, I'll call it the kill box. That's much nicer. Keeping them in the kill box as long as possible to maximize damage.
So you both have very, very similar compositions as Sophist freaks out once again. at Terror of Thil's composition. Very similar compositions here. You both have the same idea, and this is probably one of the earliest metas that's going to flesh out, because it's the easiest to see, it's the easiest to set up, and it's just kind of given to you. So, from what I see, the initiation from Thil's composition is a little better. Because in Sophist, he has the ETC going in, but if they're not already grouped up, it's going to be a hard initiation to get his AoE comp started, whereas Diablo forces it with his pull.
Sort of. See, I see it the other way. I see ETC doesn't need to run at me. I see it as team fights. You are going to be mostly grouped up, and being able to jump in there from a range.
Okay, yeah, I could.
I think honestly, with these two compositions, they are very similar, and it's
Right.
just who's going to be able to better pull off their game plan here. I think this one may have a little less risk. Diablo has that kind of like Udyr feel. Got to run in, has to get there. Then he's able to do his damage. But from there on, our groups are fairly similar. It's
Right.
just kind of at that point, CC and AoE.
For what it looks like, these two, it's just going to be a bunch of melee, 8 people in the center, on top of 2 battlecruisers, and then 2 ranged carries on the outside. So the 8 people are going to die in the center, and then it's going to be a one-on-one battle from the outside on Nova versus... it's Nazeeba...
Raynor.
Nova versus Nazeeba.
Raynor.
And so we're going nowhere with this. I don't think we can make a decision because they're so similar.
No, I mean, both of our initiators have protection from Uther.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and then
it's a very much whoever just. I think at this point with these teams, we just have to.
whoever gets the first initiate, whoever's like that half second faster at getting the stun pull off. I mean, you could even. My comp, if you wanted to go the less damage route and more safe route, you can replace Nova with Kerrigan because she's got the extra pull
Right.
with her third ability. So, I mean, there's the option there, but I'll stick to that build I made for now.
Okay.
And I'll have to really think to come up with a better one.
Yeah, I mean, I had gone a completely wacky route with another team comp I was looking at. Which had more to do with assassinating and picking people off.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we can get into that another time.
Yeah. I think we're going to make this...
I made
something a little more.
I have a second build as well.
Oh!
ready.
Do we want to use it now, or do you want to save it for next week?
No, we should.
It's up to you guys.
It'll take some time.
All right, we'll save it then, because we're already going kind of long. So, any last remarks on these team comps? I mean, very similar ideas. We're going to have to see what kind of other team comps and synergies come out in the future.
Yeah. Some of it will be, I think, getting, like you said, get some hands-on, get a chance to see how these champions really feel. You get an intimate knowledge of the champions, knowing their passives, their level ups or whatever they're doing in as far as talent trees.
Right, that's the big thing that we don't even know.
But there's not a lot of info
So right
on
now
it.
right now we just look at the abilities and say, okay, this is like we're comparing to other games and saying this is similar to this is similar to this.
Right.
Like someone I would love to fit into one of my team comps is Stitches, because I think a long range pull like that, it can be very effective at some things.
Right.
Yep,
But I mean, also, you got the other alts. Almost every hero has 2 ults right now. Not to mention the talents that can, in some cases, radically change your
the way you
the
play.
ability. Like example, Tyrael throws his sword. If you teleport to it, there was a talent that when you teleport to it, it makes a blocking field for 2 or 3 seconds around the sword. Okay. And I didn't get to experience that. I don't know what they mean by blocking field. Does it block damage going through it, or does it block you from moving? I'm thinking it's blocking from moving, but it wasn't too clear.
But I think we're just going to have to wait till beta, because a lot of information is just going to spew out once beta comes live, or they decide to actually tell us something. That'd be nice. Or, have...
It's Blizzard.
No, well, I mean, if you look at Hearthstone, they had their fireside chats. I mean, they did it once every month or something, but at least they give us a game, every once in a while to give us some information. But I know it's still early alpha. There's still a long time before release and a long time before beta, so I'm sure we'll get something eventually.
And I think that build they gave us was just the least broken champions currently. Like the 20 that worked the best.
All right.
The ones they just probably spent the most time on. I agree.
Yeah. Because they have, 30 plus lined up right now?
Oh, yeah, at least.
Lots.
They have a ton.
Lots.
And who knows, maybe they even have 6 or 7 maps lined up, and these are the
I
only
can't wait.
4 good enough.
I can't wait until we get some rock and roll racing champions.
Yeah, right?
That's going to be awesome. I'm losing a contact here. This is not good.
All right, then
No.
Kyle, losing your contact, aka Sophist. Follow him at the real Sophist as he.
Tries to fix this and find his contact.
It's fine. I'll just do this. We're
All
good.
right, one-eyed Sophist and Thilladren, aka Mike, on the right side, waving with his Heroes of the Storm shirt.
Yeah!
And me, Jeremy. You can follow me at Squishei. That's it. Next time. See you next time for more Heroes of the Storm news.
Goodbye.
Hopefully more news. Someone at Blizzard just, presses the button that releases the floodgate.